All right, we are about at the top of the hour, almost ready to get started. You are in the right place for today's webcast. This is going to be a little bit different than the webcast I usually run. I'll tell you why in a moment, but now's a great time to grab your pen, your paper, something to take notes with, last minute cup of coffee, and we will be back and get started in just a moment. All right, let's see here. We are. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started with today's webcast. First of all, thank you for joining me. As I said, this one's going to be a little different than what I usually do. And I'm excited to share with you what you'll find on the PDF. If you click the little download button right there, it's a little bit different than what you might normally hear as guidance and advice for your business. But if you're here, I'm betting that it's actually very much in line with the way that you see that you want to run your business, that you want things to be. So go ahead and click and download a copy of that. A couple of things as we get started before we dive in. There's a button you can click and download the PDF that I'll be going through today. There's chat right below this video. I would love if you would say hello, let me know who you are, where you're from, and share your feedback with me as we go through the webcast today. So I'm going to be sharing 30-some principles that are a different way to approach business. So I really would value your feedback on these as you hear them. What do you think of them? Are they things you're already doing in your business? Are they things that you could do more of, that you would be excited about? Are they what you've already heard? Or are they a little different? Whatever comes to mind. I will be watching chat. This, like I said in the email, is live. I'm right here, right now. It's 2:04 p.m. Central Time, and I'm excited to share this with you. So do share your feedback in chat below. If you have something you want to send privately, you can use the little gray click to ask a question button. It's down in that corner of the page, and those will come to me privately so that I can answer those as we go along as well. So let me know if you have any issues with any of the page elements or anything there. So I'm going to pop into chat for a minute and just say hello over there. Let's see. Hey, Kim, it's good to see you. Awesome. Okay. Give you guys a minute to say hello, and we will jump in and get started. So I'm curious, let me know in chat how many of you have read or are familiar with some of the popular books in business, like the 48 Laws of Power. Leave me a comment and let me know if that's one that you've read or that you've heard of. That's something that I hear a lot of references to in the circles that I'm in, which includes a lot of marketers. And it's something that the first time I read through that book, while some of them I understand the concept and the principle may work, it was one of those moments where I just said, this isn't how I want to do business, because I wouldn't want someone to use these principles, these tactics on me. People, what's the saying? People love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. We don't feel good when certain strategies and methods are used to get us to make a decision, right? We feel like we've been manipulated or misled sometimes. And so that's one of the things that came up for me when I read that book. I would love to know, if you're familiar with it, what you thought of it. Because what I'm going to share with you is sort of an answer or a different perspective on how you can succeed in business without playing those types of games, without everything being a power play where for you to win, someone else has to lose. Because I don't believe that's the way that business has to work. When I think about why these are so important and why I've put a lot of time over the last year or two putting these together, it really starts with one of the quotes that you may be familiar with. Dr. Maya Angelou said, "People don't remember what you say or what you do. They only remember how you make them feel." When you think about the people you've done business with over the last however many years you want to go back, usually what we remember most is how we felt, is whether we felt valued or whether we felt understood by the person that we did business with. When I think about the people that I choose to request help from for different things from business to personal, it's all about, do I feel like they care? Do I feel like they can actually help me solve a problem? And if we lose sight of the fact that that's important, then all the financial success or other types of success really isn't worth it, because when it comes down to it, really caring about how we affect other people, how our businesses affect other people, is really what matters. I'm not one of those people who takes the Machiavellian approach of the ends justify the means, because if all that matters is the end result, and we do whatever it takes to get an end result, well, then what's left is how I look at it. I want to know that the way that I got to my result is something that I feel good about. I am not someone, in fact, you'll see this in the principles, who believes that you make a sale at any cost. Half the time when I get on strategy calls, I don't make an offer because it's not a good fit for the person. And that's something that matters to me. I want to know that what I'm selling, what I'm doing, is adding value to people's lives, because long term, that's how you build a business that works, that supports you, that's sustainable, and that makes a positive difference in the world. So no matter what industry you're in, these principles are something you can apply to create a business that creates a better world. So I want to dive in and share more with you about this. If you want to know more about where these came from and kind of the ideas behind them, you can find it in the PDF. You can find all sorts of background info in the introduction there. But really, what I want to do today is share these with you to give you an alternative to how you can succeed in business, to give you something to really think about and to consider what approach you choose to take. People tell me all the time, well, I don't think I'm actually empathic. They're thinking of characters on Star Trek or different empathic alien races. But empathy is a choice. It's not something you're born with or not born with, as much as it is the choice to say, I care about how I feel when I run my business and when I make sales, and I care about how I make other people feel when I run my business and when I make sales and when I deliver my products and services. So I encourage you to remember that about empathy and about the concept of empathy in business. It's a choice that we can make that is respectful of other people. So I'm going to dive in and share some of this with you. This is the 37 principles of Lingo Dynamics, and I'm going to share with you some ways that you can apply these in your own business as we go. And again, I'd love your feedback on these to kind of explain before we jump in, what is Lingo Dynamics? Some of you have asked me that because a lot of what I've been doing has been centered on this, and I realized that in some cases, the pieces that I've been putting out there with all these different tools and trainings can feel disconnected if you don't understand the core concept behind it, which is what this is. And it really, your Lingo Dynamics is more than just the words that you say. It goes deeper than that. It's your words, it's your punctuation, it's the structure and framework you use, it's your imagery, it's your body language, it's the channels you choose to use to communicate. It's everything that goes into the way that you communicate your thoughts, your ideas, your business, how you reach out to people. All of that is part of your Lingo Dynamics. So this is really a guide to growing your business in a way that lets you feel good about the people that you're helping and the money that you earn in the process. There is a different path to success than the one you may have been taught. It's one that allows you to care about how your success affects those around you, because you deserve to succeed, and the world needs more people like you and me to prove there is a different way to be successful in business. It doesn't have to be cutthroat, I win and you lose approach. So again, I told you this webcast was going to be a little bit different than I normally do. I'm not going to try to sell you on a package or a program or a tool or anything. In fact, I don't even have a buy button to put on this page. The only invitation that I will make is at the end of this webcast, if you'd like to have a conversation about how you can do business differently, about how you can apply these principles to your business, I'll give you a link that you can get on my calendar, and we can talk about how you can do business in a way that feels good, that's a different approach than what's out there. So with that, now you guys know the whole the whole thing, what's coming at the end. This isn't going to be 10 minutes of content followed by a very long sales pitch, because that wouldn't be in line with the principles that I'm about to share with you. So some of what you've seen me do over the past 10 years or so, depending on how long you've been following me, will suddenly make sense to you as I share this, because these are the ideas and the concepts that have helped me to get to where I'm at. And people ask me all the time, why don't I do X? Why don't I do Y? And I had never put it into an actual list before to be able to explain, this is why I do certain things differently than other people. And my business is proof that you can build something successful that you feel good about, that you know is doing good things in the world, and it doesn't have to be the traditional model of win-lose business. And I'm thankful for the experiences I've had and the people that I've had in my life that have shown me some of those lessons, and I'll talk about some of those as we go. But let's jump in. Actually, let me flip over to chat for a minute. Kim, you haven't heard of that book before. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Okay, so when you look through these, if you open the PDF, you can find they're organized into short principles, and I'm just going to go through them and share a little bit about them. I would encourage you to print a copy of this off so that you can make some notes for yourself, or open a document on your computer and think about how you can apply these more to your business. Because one thing I know is that there are certain laws of the universe, and while certain things may seem short-term, like they work great, long-term, some of them don't work nearly as well. And we see that when some of the corporations and banks and other businesses have collapsed, because long-term, certain types of business don't actually win. And when you create something where everybody involved walks away feeling great, walks away with value, you're building a sustainable business that will work and that will achieve what you want. So let's jump into these. Principle number one, and this is number one for a reason, is never hide your shine. One of the things that I see so often in entrepreneurs, especially who care about others and the way they come across, is they're afraid to really share who they are and what their gifts and talents are. So this one is never play smaller than you are due to fear or insecurity. Let your lingo, your communications, reflect your brilliance, your beauty, and your talent. You can't help the people you're meant to help if you hide your inner light. And as you step into your purpose and allow your gifts to shine, others are inspired to do the same. Think about that for a minute. Think about when you started your business, or when you started the project that you're working on. What inspired you to do that? Was it seeing someone else take that same step? I know for me, there have been so many moments in my business that it was seeing somebody else do something brave that I went, oh, okay, if she can do it, if he can do it, then I can do this. So remember, not only are you the person following others, but by allowing yourself to take that same step, there are people watching you who you will inspire. So never hide the gifts that you have. This doesn't mean, and we'll get into this in another principle, that you have to be the one bragging about them. But it does mean it's okay to be who you are, to acknowledge, hey, I'm really good at this. This is my natural gift, my natural talent. And to share that, because the world needs more people sharing their skills, their talents, their gifts. So that's principle number one, is never hide your shine. Principle number two is let the Vabram guide you. I know it's a funny word. You may have heard me share it before. This is where it came from. It's the one line that really contains the 6 most important principles of powerful, positive, persuasive communication. Because so often when we hear that word persuasive, it makes my face do this, right? If it makes you feel like that, sometimes it's because you're being persuaded in a negative way, in a manipulative way. And persuasion doesn't have to be like that. Persuasion isn't about forcing someone to do something against their will. It's about passionately, powerfully sharing things that allow someone to make a different decision. And that's one of the principles later. But you can be positive in your persuasive communication. VABRAM stands for words in this sentence I'm going to read. Anyone will follow you if you help them manifest their vision, relieve their anxieties, remove their blame, escape their reality, validate their opinions, or defeat their monsters. And I've got a whole different training about that. If anybody watching doesn't have a link to that, let me know and I'll be happy to send it to you. But it's vision, anxieties, blame, reality, opinions, and monsters. That's how you get attention, is when you speak to those things for your audience. Life can feel so harsh sometimes, right? And if you're the person who's out there helping people, taking their side, showing them that you understand them, then you become the person who they want to be around. They want to listen to because you feel different than the rest of what's out there. And you'll notice in the PDF, there's some links down the left side underneath each of these principles that show you which tools you can use to apply this. So this one, for example, you can apply with the Hook Line Dynamic app. Totally free, www.hooklinedynamic.com. You can find it there. There's no charge to use it. You can just go to the page and it will help you to work these things in, especially if you click the little Get Ideas button that's on that page, and you'll see how that works. But that's where the idea behind that tool came from, is to help people apply those particular concepts to their messaging. Principle number 3, it's okay to make a splash sometimes. Don't be afraid to have fun and to put on a show, to entertain people and create memories for people. Sometimes we're afraid to use metaphors or examples or things that generate attention. But really, that's the best way to cut through the noise. When you think about, well, what do you remember? It's stories. It's people who make a splash. That's how we get people to notice us who might not see us otherwise. And the cool part of this is when you're really not hiding who you are and you let your excitement come through, that's this principle in action. You don't have to try to put on a show. When we see people who are doing what they're great at and they're excited about it, that's contagious, right? We're drawn to that because deep down we want to feel that same way about things. So it's okay to be larger than life or to be more than people might expect when it's important. I had a mentor who used to say, when you walk on stage or when you're doing a webcast or something, be who you are times 10. And that idea terrified me at first until I realized what he really meant was stop hiding your personality. Don't be afraid to really be you and to let your sense of humor and other things come through. Because the interesting thing is, even if not everybody resonates with your particular brand of humor, they respect you for being you. You know, I follow a few people on Instagram who their humor is not my sense of humor. I would not even be able to repeat out loud what they say sometimes, but I respect the fact that they're being unashamedly who they are. And they attract a crowd that loves that. And so think about that for yourself. You know, sometimes we're afraid to make a splash, but really we give other people permission to make a splash as well, to identify with who we are when we're willing to do that. So that's the third principle. Principle number 4, your hook lines are your lifeline. What does that mean? Well, a hook line is that first piece of messaging somebody sees. It's your blog post headline, your email subject line. It's whatever that first bit of text is, those 5 to 10 words. That's your lifeline because that's what grabs somebody's attention. Without that, they never see the rest of what you have to offer. So it's really important to focus on what will capture someone's attention through all of the noise, because when you get that right, everything else is easy. And there's, again, some tools listed in the PDF you can use to do that. Principle number 5, it's never about you, always about you. One of the things that we know in business is it's not actually about you as in me. It's not about what I want, what I'm focused on. But it's easy to forget that when we're writing sales copy or when we're offering our product, and step back and remember, it's really about the person that we're talking to. So much of what we do has to be creating belief for other people, helping them to see, hey, you can succeed with this. You totally can do this. You've got this. And if we can do that, then your background, your degrees, all of those things that sometimes we think people judge us by become irrelevant. Because it's not about how many degrees you have. It's not about how much experience you have. It's not about how many books you've written. Sometimes we hold ourselves back because we don't feel qualified. But it's not really about us. It's about our audience. It's about how we can help them and what we can do to change their lives. And if we show them that there's things that we do that can benefit them, instead of just bragging about our own deeds, our own success, then people respond with enthusiasm. They want to know more. How many times have you been on a webcast or somewhere, watching a presentation where the person spends 10 or 15 or 20 minutes telling you about themselves, about everything they've achieved? Now, sometimes people do that in a really inspiring way. Other times it's like, okay, awesome, you're successful. Tell me how you got there. Tell me how I can do that too, right? Because what we're always looking for when we're watching somebody else is, well, how can I do what you've done? How do I apply this to me? So remember that it's not about you. It's always about you. I hope that one makes sense to you guys. Principle number 6 is to keep it personal. Too often, especially in this age of computer everything, and I'm not knocking it. I love being able to push a button on my phone and get a pizza at my door. I'm happy to be born in this time period. But at the same time, that removes personal connection. And people are starving for that feeling of connection with someone else. So when we keep things personal in our business and we remember people are individuals, they're not numbers, they're not strangers. Encourage people to interact with you on a personal level, and you build a different connection with them where you can find out what are their feelings, what are their frustrations, what are their desires, what do they really dream about. And every opportunity you have those conversations with people, because that's how you can figure out how to help them. If you don't know what people really need, you can't help them. So keep things personal in a way that people feel safe sharing with you what they need. Principle number 7, know exactly who you're talking to and speak your audience's lingo. This is one that the world is full of so many different cultures and so many different education levels and so many different skill and knowledge levels of what we do. Never assume that your audience knows your lingo, that they know, I can get on here and go through all sorts of marketing buzzwords or tech buzzwords. I can talk about servers in a way that, 95% of my audience would be like, what do these words mean? Right? That doesn't serve anybody if I do that, other than maybe make me feel like, hey, I can remember acronyms really well. Not the most useful skill. But if I step back and remember who I'm talking to, I can be much more helpful because I can share things in a way that you will understand. And we have to remember that. And remember that sometimes it's more than just not using text speak or not using high-level words and phrases that you understand because you've been in your industry a while, but new people may not understand yet. Part of it is also knowing what emotions will be generated by the things you say, because you may end up accidentally frustrating or disappointing people when you're not aware of how they speak. So it's really important to know who our ideal audience is and then use words that resonate with them and motivate them. It's why so often you hear me mirror back to you the way you say things. I listen for exactly how do you phrase what frustrates you, or how do you phrase your goals? Because if I can understand exactly what you mean and explain it back to you in a way that says, okay, you're frustrated by this, and I know this is your goal, here's the steps in the middle, instead of, well, what you should want to build is this, and you might run into these other challenges, which one are you going to listen to more? The one that speaks your language. So that's why that's an important principle. And again, I would love your feedback on these guys. If these are things that you see in businesses and how you feel about them when you see other businesses apply these, or how you could apply these in your own business. Principle number 8, talk with people, not at them. This one can be a challenge to apply when you are in virtual world, right? When you're on the internet. But if we speak one way, people tune us out. So using one-way mediums like, recorded videos, blog posts, you've got to make an effort to keep it a dialogue back and forth with people. So that means engaging in your comments, asking questions, having chat on your page, interacting with people and getting people to talk to you is important. So even if people aren't super talkative in your Facebook group or in chat on a webcast or wherever you're at, use questions, because they'll be thinking, they'll have an internal response and dialogue with you. And that'll set you apart from a lot of people in your space, in your industry. Always focus on the idea of dialogue versus monologue. All right, so that was principle number 8. Principle number 9, and you guys, if you were watching the launch of Proof Factory last month, you saw me talk a lot about this idea. Principle number 9 is let others brag for you. For a lot of us, it's uncomfortable to talk about ourselves, and it's actually more effective if we let someone else do that. So allowing people to publicly share their positive experience with us, especially on video in a format like this, allows us to sell from a different perspective. When you have video testimonials and you're sharing testimonials from people and you're sharing case studies, you have a different way that you approach sales calls then, because when you have a conversation with someone or when they reach out to you via email, it's not convince me of why I should work with you. It's, do you have time available? How do I get a spot in your program? Because they already see the value of what you're doing. They already see the possible transformation you can help them create, and it shifts things completely. So you don't need to use pushy sales tactics or hypey sales tactics to get people into your programs or your workshops or your products if you have testimonials where other people are sharing why it was useful, how it was helpful to them. That's something else, again, that there's lots of other trainings I've done on. If you'd like more info on that, I can point you to it. Just shoot me a message with the little Q&A box on the page. So let's keep going here. Principle number 10 is to speak belief into people's hearts and minds. We all crave something to believe in. And I think at our core, we all know we're capable of more than we're doing. And if you can speak to that in someone, regardless of whether you're teaching someone to cook a meal or juggle balls or create a business, whatever you're teaching, if you can help them believe and see that it's possible for them to do something with that, it makes a difference, right? You have to help them understand how important it is that they live up to that potential that they've got, that they can make a difference in the world. So providing specific action steps to help them see the positive result they can create. And when you have a mission or a cause that you bring people together around, everyone achieves results faster. So I encourage you to think about what that is. What is it in your business that you're helping people believe in? It's one of those things that sometimes people look at their business and think, well, I don't really have a mission. I don't really have a cause, but every business does. Whatever the core reason is that you do what you do because you want to see something different, think about what cause or mission is aligned with that. And if you don't have something specific, then come up with one. People talk about Zappos, the shoe company. You might not think manufacturing shoes necessarily has a cause or mission, but they tied it to one. For every pair of shoes, I'm thinking of Tom's, sorry, not Zappos. For every pair of shoes they sell, they donate one to children in countries that need shoes, right? So think about the mission that you can create around what you do. Zappos has a different one. It's the customer service one. And they have some cool examples, too, of applying this type of thing. But think about that for your own business. Principle number 11. This one is hard for me, but it's very true. Say more with less. It's easy to be uncomfortable with silence, right? Does anybody else have that? It's hard to just let silence sit sometimes, but it's important to do. The less that we ramble, the less likely we are to put our feet in our mouths as well. But a lot of times, saying less and being very clear with it is what helps people to understand us and to be able to trust what we're sharing. So keep that in mind. The more succinctly we can communicate, the more powerful it is. Principle number 12, value first, then an offer, then more value. One of the conversations I have with a lot of people when I do things where I'm not immediately pushing for a sale. So when I get on the phone with people sometimes, they'll ask me, well, you didn't make an offer. Well, I honestly believe it's short-sighted sometimes to rush to make a sale. If you don't know what someone needs, don't try to sell them anything yet. If doctors prescribed drugs without at least that really short conversation where you tell them your symptoms, it would be malpractice. But so often in marketing, we're told to do that. This is a solution for everybody. No, it's not. You have an awesome solution for a certain group of people with a certain problem. You got to find those people to give your solution to. It's short-sighted to just focus on sale, 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 sale. If you want a sustainable business, what you focus on is who's the right person for this? Who does this actually help? Instead of rushing to always close the sale, because there is almost everybody you connect with, there's something you could sell them that makes sense, but you need to figure out what it is first. You need to find out what do they need or want. And if you can help connect them with value and find what's valuable to them, then it's not really about making a sale. It becomes, okay, that's your problem. I know the solution. It's a much better conversation to have from both sides. If what you're doing is giving them value, connecting them with a solution, whether it's through your freebie, whether it's through your blog, through webcasts like this, when you start with what's valuable to them, you become an ally and a friend in a different way than if you just start with a sale. So I encourage you to think about that and how you're approaching that in your business, because it makes it easy then for people to say, yes, I want more. I want to work with you because you have earned permission to share with them what you have to offer if you start with value and understanding them first. Principle number 13 is to open people's hearts and minds with stories. And thanks for the comments that you guys are enjoying this. I hope it gives you a different perspective on what you can do to build a successful business, because there is a different approach to so much of what we see. So principle 13 is the one we're on. Open your hearts and minds with stories. Stories are part of every known culture in the world, right? It doesn't matter which culture you go to, they have origin stories of how people ended up here. They have their ethical and moral stories of why certain things should be certain ways and what happens if you break the culture's codes. I remember so many stories as a child that I grew up in rural Alaska where the native culture had some scary stories as a kid. I remember that one of the things that they told was if you disobeyed your elders, because elders and community was very important in their culture, that if you wandered off to the tundra, which was kind of surrounding everywhere we were, I was very out in the boonies, so to speak. Town was in the middle of nowhere, so surrounded by tundra, that tiny elves would come and eat you. Well, that did a couple of things. Number one, I never ventured out on the tundra by myself, ever, because I was terrified of the tiny elves, which I realize now that were just a story, but it worked very well for keeping kids in town, and it worked to reinforce that you need to obey and respect your elders, and if you don't, there's a punishment. Now, the specific consequence was a little exaggerated, but every culture has their stories like that, right? And they're what we remember. I remember that as a child, and it shapes who we are and how we see the world. And when we weave stories into what we do, especially when they're ones with recognizable patterns, where your story starts, you guys have heard the stories so many times, the hero story of this is where I started. These were the things that were wrong. These were the disadvantages I had. This is what I fought through to get to where I'm at, and here's where I am now. That's a recognizable pattern, right? When we hear that story, and it helps people find a meaning in what we do. And those stories don't have to be, I was totally broke, I didn't know what to do next, I was living in my car, and now I'm a quadrillion billionaire. That's not the kind of stories you have to tell. The stories of, I didn't know how to solve this little problem. It was really frustrating me. It was on my mind when I went to bed at night. I was frustrated in the morning when I woke up about it. And then I realized there was a really simple solution. And now I can sleep at night without Excedrin PM. When you have even small stories, people can identify with that because they're real. So don't think that your stories have to be these grand, crazy, amazing transformation stories. Those are great and they have a place, but tell everyday stories too, because people will connect with them. The right people will understand and feel like they have something in common with you when you tell those stories. It's the quickest way to actually break down the resistance people have. And you don't do it because you're trying to break down resistance so that they'll give you their credit card. You do it because you actually want somebody to understand through the story, hey, there's a solution. If it worked for me, we can make it work for you. We can fix this. We can teach you this. You can learn how to change this. So once you share stories, even the most suspicious people, if they resonate with a story that you share, is that much closer to actually having a conversation about how to fix the problem. And if you really want to help people fix their problems, you have to get them to open their minds to the possibility that maybe there is a solution. Because very often, one of the reasons we're shut down and we're suspicious is we don't actually believe there's a solution. That's not a good place to be. I don't ever want to leave somebody in a space where they actually think they have to stay stuck, because there's always a solution. You just have to find it, right? So opening people's hearts and minds with stories is principle 13. Principle number 14, real nearly always trumps fancy. Don't worry about making things fancy. I tell people this all the time in my training programs. Just focus on sharing what you've got, because your enthusiasm, your energy, you will come through. Whether you have, a fancy TV set or whether you're just sitting outside with your iPhone, don't worry about the fancy part of it, because what people are looking for is a connection with someone who's real. They're much more likely, actually, to connect with you when you're casual, when you're just you, as opposed to what looks like it might be a highly produced infomercial of, I'm going to get Ginsu steak knives and 15 other free things along with my purchase today. And if I buy an extra one, I'm going to get these 5 extra things. It's not about creating that kind of pitch. It's about being real and honest with people of, here's the solution I've got. If you'd like help with this problem, we can solve it. You don't need 37 million bonuses. All you need is for somebody to have that belief, like we talked about a minute ago, that you can help them solve a problem. There's so much of fake in everything these days, from reality TV shows, which, come on, we know those aren't real, right? We realize what the cameras are focusing on, to fake sugar in all of our foods. There's so much out there that's not real, that what people are actually looking for is something that is real. Think about the people you choose to follow, the people who resonate with you. Part of the reason is because you feel like they're real. So real nearly always trumps fancy. Principle number 15 is empower others to be empowered yourself. This is one of those things that a lot of traditional business wisdom doesn't really line up with this, does it? It's all about how much power can you get for yourself? How many people can you convince to follow and listen to everything you do? There's a different way to succeed in your business, because when you empower others, you're building a community that will help you be empowered as well. When you help other people to find that belief and faith in themselves, you will succeed as well, because that energy comes back to you. And what happens is people see you as somewhere they can go to for empowerment, encouragement, for strength, instead of seeing you as a vampiric energy siphon, that we all kind of instinctively seek to avoid those things, right? The things that drain us, we don't want to spend time around. But the things that energize us, that make us feel good, we want to be part of. And when our focus is on empowering others, it allows us to look at what we do in a different way that feels empowering to us as well. So keep that in mind, that the focus shouldn't be, how can I get more power? The focus should be, how can I empower other people? Because we always remember and seek to be around those people who make us feel like we can do something too, right? I can tell you, top 5 people in my life who made me feel empowered. And I bet you can recall the top 5 people in your life who are that way as well. Who, if you go have a conversation with them, or if you go read what's on their blog, or you read their book, or you jump into their Facebook group, or maybe it was a teacher in school for you, there are certain people that if you just get around them, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel empowered again. Be one of those people, and you will attract people to you who then charge your battery back up, who return that favor, and that energy comes back to you. So it's an important principle as well, which ties right into principle number 16, which is attraction. Choose positivity to magnetize positive things to you. A well-known adage says, I'm sure you've heard this more times than we can both count, you're the sum total of people you surround yourself with. Some variations of that, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But all of that are common wisdom, because those are actually true. The people that we surround ourselves with influence us. We become like the people we choose to be around. So think about who you are and what you're putting out there into the world, because that attracts certain people to you. If you find yourself frustrated because you feel like the people around you aren't supportive. You feel like they're being negative. There's a lot of frustration and negative emotion around you. Stop and start with yourself and look at, how can I be more positive? How can I put out more positivity? How can I be someone who empowers others more? And stay mindful of the fact that the people who are around you are going to rub off on you in a way that you want to be in control of. You want to choose what emotions are around you so that you can stay in a positive space, so that you don't end up being pulled into that emotional black hole, right? So choose to be positive, magnetize positivity to you, and sometimes be okay with making choices that say, this is who I want to be, and so these are the people I choose to surround myself with, right? Principle number 16. Okay. Principle number 17. And this is actually one of my favorites. Create a constant state of hopefulness. Foster an air of excitement. We as human beings are programmed to act when we feel a certain way, when we feel excited, right? That's when we want to go do something, when we feel hopeful, like, hey, I actually, maybe I can do this. I'm excited about this. And using certain words, using exciting words, can help us feel that hope about our potential. Um, and it can be tough for some of us who are lower key. I'm not a high excitement person. I'm pretty low key. I have to, one of the things I'm consciously working on is my excitement level with things. And it's something where you want to be genuinely enthusiastic and let that come through. And you'll know when it does, because you can tell by people's reaction to you. When other people get that excitement, you can see it in their eyes. They're like, there's something that clicks, right? You want that, because when you can create that state of excitement and hopefulness in other people, that's when you could actually help them make a decision to change something, make a decision to create a different outcome for themselves through what you're offering with your programs, your products, your services. It's about focusing on the real potential that you see for people, because you see that possibility for your product to solve a problem, for the coaching or the consulting you do to fix something for someone, for the mindset work you do, whatever it is you offer. I know you see the potential for that to change people's lives. And it might be what seems like a small way, or it might be something that seems huge, but I know you see that potential in people, or you wouldn't do what you do. And it's not about promising some kind of magical fairy one solution that sometimes it feels like when we see marketing. It's about letting people know, hey, this is what I see in you. You're becoming a mirror to reflect back to them their potential. And when you do that, they're inspired to take action. So that's principle 17, is to create that constant state of hopefulness. Let's see. Principle number 18. This one I learned from experience on the other side of, honestly. Lead with a plan rather than charisma. We see a lot of charismatic people out there winning people over just through their charisma. And sometimes that makes some of us, and I'm one of these people, feel like, okay, I can't, that will never be me. I'm not that type of personality. And so sometimes we feel like maybe we can't succeed. We're not excited and charismatic and emotionally manipulative enough. But the problem with that is, if you get somebody charged up just with charisma, long term, that wears off. The minute you're out of their space, because that charisma is about you and not about their potential, they lose it. If you've ever been in a situation and you feel really excited when you're in the room, but the minute you leave, you lose that hope, that's what this is about. You can get people excited purely through charisma, purely through charm, through that lure, that excitement. But if it's not actually anchored to a plan, if it's not actually anchored to, this is what I see in you, then when people walk away and are out of your presence, you lose that control and that influence over them. So it's really important to have an actual plan, because otherwise people don't get a result and they end up feeling kind of swindled, that they had belief in what you were creating or what they thought was there, but there really wasn't anything there. It was just charisma. There was no plan. And we never want to leave people feeling that way. We want to have an actual plan that lasts beyond that momentary excitement. It needs to be something empowering and effective so that people follow that plan and they can get a result. It's not just about charm. It's not just about, well, if I get you in a room with me, I can sell you anything in 3 minutes. Well, great, but what's going to happen after the sale? Is that person going to be able to take what you have and go get a different result? Go do something with it that's positive. Because that's where you build a sustainable business. If you build something that's built just on charisma, you've got a house of cards that as soon as the wind blows through, they collapse. All right. Principle number 19 is leverage free carefully. Offering something for free is a powerful way to get people's attention, but sometimes it makes us suspicious, right? We think, okay, where are the strings? What's the catch? What am I signing? Things of value are worth paying for. But by being clear about why you're offering something free and reassuring people, then, you can get past that initial, what's the catch? And really create abundance, because people will come in to see what's free. And if you offer something valuable and say, hey, transparency, talk about this one in a minute. Yeah, I'm giving you this free because I want you to check out what else I can help you with. It's a way to help people see the potential of what you can do for them, how you can help them. Principle number 20, and this is an important one. Always be honest, yet never heartless. Sometimes you have to be direct with someone and honest and deliver something that can sometimes feel a little painful in the moment to truly help someone. If you have someone who's doing something wrong that you know absolutely if they change this one little thing, they will get an entirely different result. You need to be honest with them, right? You've got to be able to say, no, do it this way. This is where the problem is. But there's a way to do it where it does more good, where it doesn't do more harm. And it's all about the way that you deliver that honest truth. So it's kind of like the example of, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Well, you don't want to say that if it's not true, especially if you're just trying to sell somebody on something. But if it is true and you don't tell somebody that, you've done them a disservice. You need to be honest so people don't get caught unprepared or caught off guard. Your words may be the only warning they get to change something so they're not in the way of the sky falling, so to speak. That's one thing that you've got to learn and apply when you have conversations about how you can work with someone. If you really want to help them solve their problem, sometimes you need to help them see what the potential for that problem is. I've gone through this example before with people who are in the relationship niche, where they don't want to push somebody to feel bad about what might happen in their relationship. Well, if I'm in a relationship and I've come to you for help, and I'm trying to figure out what's the solution to fix communication with someone, and if I don't fix that, what's going to end up happening down the road is more than just fights every day. It's the end of a relationship. It's a family splitting apart. It's divorce. It's expensive therapy for kids. It's, all of the things that happen as a result of not fixing this one, what seems like a small problem right now. If you don't have that honest conversation of, okay, reality is, if you don't fix this, here's what could potentially happen and how much it could cost you. That can be a painful truth to deliver, but if you do it in a way that says, I'm here to help, let's fix this, and give people the tools they need to fix it, you can deliver the solution. That's important, because you can't walk away and not help somebody to realize why they need to make a different choice. Part of your job is to help people see, okay, if you don't learn this right now, if you don't fix this problem, here's the potential of where you might be 6 months or a year from now. Is that where you want to be? No. So let's fix it, right? That's not manipulation. That's being honest and giving somebody a chance. If it's you in their shoes, you want to know what the potential is, right? I know I do. I want to know, this is a problem. This is what might happen. Let me fix it right now while it's fixable. And that applies to everything we do, everything we sell. When I talk to people, I try to be conscious of this principle of be honest in a way that's never heartless, that takes into account saying things kindly, let your words be kind, but honest, right? So we can spend a lot of time on that. Let's go to the next one, because we've only got about 10 minutes left here. So I'm going to go through the rest of these fairly quickly. Principle 21, be both graceful and grateful. Think about the people who you want to be around. In the long run, it really is people who are not brash, bragging about themselves. It's people who are graceful and who are grateful, and you can see that gratefulness, right, for what they have. when you be that person who presents themselves with dignity, even when you're having a bad day, even when everything's going wrong and there's struggle, you make yourself a safe space, a safe harbor for other people, because they know no matter what's going on in your life, you will be there with a positive, graceful, grateful spirit, and you're willing to be there to help them, right? So be graceful and grateful. Principle number 2, speak with confidence in a clear outcome. Really, outcome is everything. The ends don't always justify the means, but the outcome is important. It's what matters. So create a plan that is well thought out, that you can communicate, and then follow it. And speak with confidence to that. If you know these 5 steps lead to this outcome, don't be afraid to say, take these steps, this is the possible outcome. Don't be afraid to tell people that, you can't promise they'll get results because, well, it's up to them to do the work, right? If you give me a system and if I follow this system, this is the result I can get, there is nothing wrong with you telling me that. I need you to tell me that so that I'll actually take the steps. Because otherwise, how many times do we buy a product, we buy a book, we buy a cookbook, and we go off on our own and try to do the thing? I've done this. I will buy a cookbook, I will look at the picture, and then I'll try to make that picture without following. It doesn't work. If you don't follow the steps, you do not get that picture. Doesn't matter if you get all the ingredients, you have to follow the steps, okay? But they can put that picture on there because they know, hey, if the person in the kitchen is smart enough to buy the right ingredients, to follow these steps, and not try to set the oven for a higher temperature to get the food done sooner, or not try to skip certain steps like pre-cooking noodles. If somebody follows the plan, that picture is what's possible to create. So if you know what that outcome is, you can speak that and share that confidently. And know that, yes, it's up to the person who buys the cookbook, who gets your product, your program, who invests in your services, to follow the steps. But if they do, you're confident about what that clear outcome, that picture is, right? All right, principle number 23. Projecting perfection is the ultimate fail. Now, what do I mean by that? Projecting that you're better than to other people is always risky, but the riskiest thing of all is trying to look perfect, because people won't see, they won't receive what they don't believe that it's possible for them to achieve. So what does that mean? If I look at you and I see, oh wow, you're perfect, no wonder you succeeded, then I'm not going to be willing to risk and to try to achieve what you're showing me is possible, because I don't believe I can actually do it. So don't be afraid to let people see the real you, to let people know, hey, you know what? I did this wrong, or I have this fault, or this is a challenge for me. Because when you're confident enough to admit that you have weaknesses, that you're human, I'm human, it makes you approachable. It makes you someone that people can relate to when you're imperfect. Don't be afraid to come across as weak or feel like you have to project that you're perfect. Because we all know deep down, nobody's actually perfect, but we can't relate to people that we feel like, well, no wonder they had everything going for them. No wonder that they succeeded. That's not the way to help other people believe in themselves. And the good news is this one's really easy, since none of us are perfect. If we're just honest about who we are, and what we struggle with and where we've tripped and fallen, this principle's easy to apply, right? All right, principle number 24, protect your brand at all costs. So often, especially if we're new in business, we think, I know I thought this a lot, that brand is just a logo. I had no idea when I started my business what brand was. I actually didn't have an idea what a logo was either. Y'all don't want to see the first logos I had. But brand is so much more than that. It's the soul of our business. It's about the values that we hold and project. It's about the promises that we make and whether or not we keep them. It's really the battery that stores the essence of what we're projecting into the world as our business. And everything that we say, everything we communicate, again, all of our lingo should be created with that image of what our brand is at the forefront of our minds, because a brand is what really does carry you. It can get you, sink or swim kind of thing. When you're mindful of how your communications reflect on your brand and you stay alert for that, you can really protect what you're creating, what you're building, and allow that to carry your business. Principle number 25, Respect other people's choices while inviting them to make a different decision. This is something that will make all the difference in the world when you're having a sales conversation, is respecting the choice that someone else makes while being willing to push that, to say, okay, I respect the choice you've made. I respect where you're at. Let's look at what some potential different choices are. Let's look at some information here that might help you make a different decision. So you don't have to tell somebody they're wrong. You don't have to push somebody into a decision they're going to regret. You can say, okay, cool. Well, here's some things to think about. After you've thought about these, let's have another conversation. Or you can help them rethink things right there in the conversation with you and encourage them to take new information and make a different decision. Very often where we're at, if you're having a conversation with me and you see if I do these things differently, I could be over here, which is a better place to be than over here. It's not that I don't want to be over here. It's that the decisions I'm making are based on the information I have right now. Give me better information. Help me make a different decision. Invite me to do something different. Invite me to get help with something. Because when you do that, then I can choose to make a different decision. And also respect people's choices in the sense of never say no for someone else. You might be surprised the people who would say yes to an offer you make them if you don't make the decision for them. Don't make a decision that someone else can't invest in what you have, because it's always just a matter of priorities. And so allow others to make their own decisions and invite them to consider new information. That's all you're really doing when you have a conversation with someone and saying, hey, okay, you're stuck on this problem. I get it. If you had a solution, we wouldn't be in this conversation. So let's talk about what a solution could look like and then let them make a new decision, right? It's as simple as that. Okay, so we've only got a few minutes. So let's kind of speed through the rest of the principles here. Be transparent, even when it's not comfy, is principle 26. We never feel good when we feel like we've been left in the dark about something, right? Especially, I think this one might be a little more applicable to women in my experience. We don't like to be in the dark. We want to know what's going on. Your audience, your readers, your community, your buyers, your clients, your customers, they want to know what's going on too. I had a conversation this morning with someone about whether to introduce a free and a paid level of something at the same time. And the thought process that we went through was, okay, how's your audience going to feel if you roll it out this way? How are they going to feel if you roll it out this way? And the decision was actually made based on this principle of, okay, let's be transparent. Let's be upfront with people and say, hey, this is what the goal is here. Now, you guys know I have a business. I'm transparent about the fact that most of the time I'm going to make an offer. I'm going to say, hey, if you would like to work with me, here's some options. Because my objective is to grow my business while providing something of value to the world, right? Being transparent about things allows people to feel safe about the decisions they make based on what you share. So it's kind of like if you imagine that you're guiding people down a path. You've got that spooky old country path that's dark with the scary trees, that there's owls howling, and you're not sure where you're going, or there's a well-lit highway where, I can pull off and grab Starbucks at any of the stops. Not really relevant. I'm just thinking about coffee. It's about the well-lit path. You can see where you're going. You can see markers along the way. How much better do you feel driving in that environment where there's a clear path versus a scary, spooky one? Think about that and be transparent. Make sure things are lit up in a way that people feel comfortable. Principle number 27, focus your lingo on one specific emotion at a time. Always reinforce one feeling and stay aware of it. Don't bounce around. It makes people crazy. You don't want your audience to be seasick. You want them to focus on certain things. Focus is important, right? So don't just bounce around, but move from one focus to another. And this is something that if you guys have been in my trainings about the Feel-N-Ims machine, that's one of the things that it helps you do. Again, you can find links in the PDF to the different tools and things that will help you to apply these. We're at the top of the hour, so I think we may need to do a part 2 on this. I'm going to quickly read through the others here. Principle 28, be desired, not required. When you make yourself someone who people want around, rather than feeling like they have to have you around, they need you, they get to choose to work with you. It's a completely different relationship. People will want to continue to follow you when you empower them. Instead of fishing for them, teach them to fish. They're going to keep coming back to you for more help. Principle number 29, be mindful if you're using negative lingo. There are times, like we talked about a minute ago with the honest truth, sometimes there are times you need to say something that's negative, that's not positive. Just be mindful of it, know why, and express it in a way that's impactful, that is only with good intentions. That you're saying it not to motivate somebody just to pull out their credit card. You're saying certain things because you want to help them achieve a result that they want. Okay? So be aware of when you're being negative. Principle number 30, timing is everything. Don't rush your lingo. In communication, timing is so important. So pay attention to where you are in a conversation, right? Learn to wait patiently. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone in a conversation is give them space. Give them time to think through their response, and don't rush in with yours. Principle number 31 is talk up with your lingo, never down. Always lift other people up. Be the one who edifies, who encourages, who inspires people to feel confident and secure no matter what their status or position or level is or what yours is. Don't project that you're superior to people. It's really important. It's like the perfection thing. People need to feel and know that you respect them and you see their potential regardless of where you came from or where they came from. When you do this, you'll see people really achieve a different level of success. Principle 32, be open and available, but with clear boundaries. This is important because you want to be open, be available to people, but you've got to have some boundaries because you're human. There's only one of you, right? And if you are open but don't have clear boundaries, you end up off balance. You end up exhausted, worn out, and you can't be of real help. So remember that you have value and you have to maintain that to be able to be of service. So establish clear boundaries on your time and where you can focus. Principle 33 is to reinvent yourself constantly. Don't limit yourself to who you are and where you are right now. There's bigger things in store for you. Okay, so constantly be reinventing yourself, and do it in a way that protects your brand, that keeps the core of who you are, that allows you to bring memorable things into how you communicate. But as you work to reinvent yourself to the next evolution, so to speak, of you, your ability to influence others just grows. We're always learning, we're always growing, right? So be okay with that, to step into the next version of you and allow people to see that and to be inspired by that. Principle 34 is always start with a framework. Especially for those of us who are creative, we tend to want to throw the finger paint everywhere, right? But if we rely only on that, we don't get a lot done. We tend to end up down rabbit holes. We tend to end up stuck on step one. If we start with a framework that all we do is fill in our creativity, we get so much further, so much faster. So you can be creative and highly productive if you start with a framework. Principle 35, know people's pain so you can relieve it. If you don't know what the pain is for your audience, what they're frustrated by, how are you going to help them? You've got to understand where they're at, right? You need to know how to fix their frustrations, how to overcome their challenges. And if you can do that, you'll be the source people come to for solutions and problems. So that's an important principle, is to know what people's pain is, to understand it. I talk about this all the time when I talk about sales. You don't have to create pain. People are already in pain. All you have to do is acknowledge that it exists. Acknowledge it. Hey, I see this. This is a problem. Let's fix it. If you know what their pain is, you can be the one who helps relieve it, who shows them how to help other people relieve their pain. That's a good cycle to create in the world. Principle 36 is keep it fun and a little weird. You will always do your best when you feel like you can be yourself, right? So be okay with who you are, with being unique and being memorable in a way that is you, because that's something that will attract people to you. Choose your lingo, your communications, your language in a way that allows you to have fun with what you do, and maybe even keeps things a little bit unconventional. Not crazy weird. I'm not saying you've got to dye your hair pink, although I personally like pink hair, but you don't have to do things like that. Just be you, because who you are is unique. It is interesting. And if you'll let that come through, you will attract the right people to you who will love what you have to offer. So think outside your box a little bit, and people will gravitate towards that. And principle number 37, saying is believing. Your lingo is also for you. You know, we talk about the way we communicate with others, but something that's really important is the way we communicate with ourselves. What language are we using when we talk to ourselves? Sometimes we say things to ourselves that we would never say to someone else. And it's important to stop and remember that you have to start with yourself. If you want to make a difference in the world, you want to build a business that matters, you want to create something that creates positive change in the world that is sustainable, start with yourself and how you speak to yourself. So be honest with yourself, but kind. Don't be heartless when you talk to yourself, and have fun, but also look for ways to empower yourself. Treat yourself as well as you're aspiring to treat others. The fact that you're listening to this tells me you've chosen to be empathic in the sense of caring how you come across, of caring how other people feel about what you're doing. How you feel also matters. So I encourage you to go through these principles also from the perspective of, what am I saying to myself? Because your lingo and your communications is also for you. All right, so that's principle number 37. Like I said at the beginning, this webcast was a little bit different. My goal was just to introduce you to these concepts, these ideas, and give you an idea of a different way that you can approach business, of a different way you can build something that you feel good about and that creates positive change in the world. If you'd like to have a conversation about how you can apply these in business, you can reach out to me. I'll send out a follow-up email that includes my info. You can hit reply. You can message me on Facebook, or if you're in one of my programs like Insider Club, hit me up in the group and we can talk about how you can apply these to your business. You can also find links through this PDF, again, to the tools and different programs that will help you apply some of this. But I encourage you to print this out. Make some notes for yourself and think about, where can I do more of this in my business, especially the ones that you feel like resonate with you, that as I was going through them, you thought, yeah, this one makes sense. I encourage you to look for more ways to build that into what you're doing. And if you found this refreshing difference from so much of what you hear out there, let me know. I would love your feedback on this, and I'm going to ask you guys for help in getting this out there in a big way, because I think there's a different way to do business. And I think it's something that together we can make a difference in what type of business succeeds and help create a better environment, a better world for all of us. So with that, I will let you go. Again, let me know what you thought of these. I value your feedback, and I'd love to have a conversation about it. I will follow up with an email in your inbox, and you guys have an awesome rest of your day, whether you're here live or watching the replay. Thank you for tuning in.